Welcome to Azeroth United, a weekly podcast about World of Warcraft. My name is Denethar, and I am your host.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Today is Thursday, July 25th, and this is episode 45 of Azeroth United. We do have a great show lined up for you today. We're going to be discussing all of the WoW-related news, as well as a little bit of talk on WoW's favorite new system, Warbands. So pull up a chair, sit back, relax, and enjoy. And as always, if you have any questions or comments about the podcast, or have a particular topic that you would like to hear discussed, please email us at azerothunitedpod@gmail.com. Also, if you enjoy the show, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. That helps out our distribution tremendously, so if you're inclined to do so, we'd be very grateful. Before I get to the news, I wanted to do a quick rundown of what I got up to last week in WoW. Last week was it was busy, but I didn't really get a whole lot. I didn't get a really whole lot accomplished. I did mostly Warband prep or pre-patch prep, however you want to phrase it. But getting everybody's gear in the right place, make sure their bags are cleaned up, make sure all their transmog looks good for the Warband login screen. Just that prep work. I had a bunch of mail on my bank alt that bounced, so I had to send that back and then go log on to him and open all that stuff up. It's being a certified altaholic is tough because you have a lot of characters to manage, and I start to lose track of who has what. So I'm glad to have the altaholic add-on, although it's not working on the pre-patch right now, so that's kind of a pain. But that was the bulk of the time that I spent. I did get onto Remix for a little while. I finished the Landfall campaign on my Paladin, which is great because that's what you need to unlock the trading post transmog recolors. So whatever the class-specific transmog that you got on the trading post last year, or I guess it was the beginning of this year. Anyway, there's recolors of it in Miss Pandaria, and as far as I know, they're exclusive to Miss Pandaria Remix, so I wanted to make sure I got those. The rest of the stuff, I'm not really super keen on it. I'm not chasing the Tusk of Mineroth. I'm not trying to get the heirlooms from Garrosh. Remix is kind of at this weird point where it's like, I don't see the point in trying to gear up my character anymore. I'm better off riding somebody else's coattails to victory. So if I want to finish a quest line or do something like that, that's fine. Like I still have to do the Isle of Thunder quests to get the weapon recolors for the trading post. So I mean that's it's whatever, but it's something to do, especially because right now Warbands is in the pre-patch and everything's so exciting, but it's like, well, it's still just Dragonflight content, so there's nothing new to do. And even when we get the event, I mean, it's going to be just like every other pre-patch event: run around, kill the guy, get the loot, go to the new zone, kill the guy, get the loot. That's pretty much it. So, and not to downplay it. I mean, it's a lot of fun going out there with the entire server, and you have hundreds of people on their flying mounts going from spot to spot. It's really fun. But I've done it before. I've done it the last. I think it was Legion the first time they did a pre-patch event like that. Might have been Legion. Anyway, doesn't matter. Everybody's been doing this for years. If you've been playing WoW for the last few expansions, you've done the pre-patch basically because it's all the same. I mean, there's obviously a little bit of flavor. But anyway, I'm getting off topic. That was basically it. I did a little bit of time walking on a couple of my characters and some LFR for Bullion. It's always nice to be able to open a Great Vault, even if it's if you're just getting tokens for Wormcrest. But that being said, there's going to be a lot more compelling reasons to do stuff now because we got new talents that we're going to try out. We've got new, we've got the Warbands. People are going to be joining new guilds because it's cross-realm. There's lots of things going on. So, all right, that's enough of that. We have a lot to talk about, so let's get into it.
It's time for the news.
In Blizzard news. All right, so let's start off with actual Blizzard news today. There was a tweet that got put out yesterday from the World of Warcraft Gamemakers Guild Union. And this is a new union as part of the Communication Workers of America that represents World of Warcraft designers, developers, engineers, producers, basically everything across Blizzard or Microsoft for World of Warcraft. What they said is we're the World of Warcraft Gamemakers Guild, the first wall-to-wall union at Blizzard. We're thrilled to include WoW's QA, art, sound, design, engineering, and production voices for a democratized workplace. At this crucial moment in games, we stand together as one for Azeroth. All right. There you go. That one was for you, Manny. This is great. This is one of those things that you love to see it, but I was not expecting it, not by any capacity. So yeah, it's very exciting. You know, Microsoft did say that they were willing to allow the workers to unionize. They wouldn't stand in the way. And so I guess as a test to that statement, there's so I think Bethesda unionized last week or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. And now we've got this. So I think it's for the best. I think there's obviously going to be some hiccups along the way as you deal with trying to coordinate now a union and negotiate with a union with a company, whereas the company before was used to dealing with just individuals. So there is things that need to kind of get fleshed out and ironed out. And so there might be a few wrinkles here and there, but I think for the most part, this is a good thing for pretty much everyone involved, including Blizzard and Microsoft. I think it gives them good optics, especially after the whole Bobby Kotick era. But two, it makes your workers happier, and happy workers are more willing to do things for you. And that's just the truth. If you have a bunch of people who are disgruntled and unhappy and they're only in the job because they need the money and they just can't wait to get a new job, you're not getting good product from those people. If you have employees who are unionized and feel represented and they feel safe in their environment and they feel like they're being well compensated, yeah, they're going to provide you with good content. I mean, theoretically, obviously, you're going to have people who are lazy, and that's going to go across. It doesn't matter if you're union or not union. You're going to have people who aren't going to work hard. But for the most part, in general, this is a good thing. So hopefully, it shows long-term benefits for not just for World of Warcraft players, but for the people who work on this game and their families. So best of luck to all of those people. All right, in modern WoW, I'm just going to go right off the bat. We're going to hit this one quickly because it's already been talked to death by a lot of people. The tank changes in the War Within. Now, so I don't play a tank, generally speaking. I have tank characters. I have a Prot Warrior. I have a Blood DK. I have a Prot Paladin. For the most part, my Prot Warrior is Fury, and my Prot Paladin is Retribution. My Blood DK is sometimes Frost. Because I'm not very good at tanking. And one of the things that I'm not very good at is handling my defensives properly. And one of the things that Blizzard brought up in this post, and I'm going to pull this up here so that we can discuss it. Basically what it boils down to is tanks had too many defensives, and so Blizzard had to challenge them. So the only way to challenge somebody with a lot of defensives is to increase the amount of damage that they're taking. Well, when you have bad tanks like me, who are not good at managing their defensives, they get one shot or they get wiped out. And that was a problem that I ran into. Not a lot, but I did run into it because I'm not very good at tanking. I'm not very good at tanking. I'm actually quite bad at that aspect of it. So is this change for me? I'd like to think so. Yeah, I do. I would like to believe that this change was made exclusively for me. But realistically, what Blizzard did is they went through and they looked at what tanks had become at the end of Dragonflight, and they said tanks are overpowered. Tanks are able to solo dungeons in Mythic Plus. If the entire group wipes, the tank's just going to finish the boss from 30%. That's not absurd. So, or they get rid of healers entirely. So you have a tank and 4 DPS. That also happens, or has happened. Now, Blizzard has done things to try to eliminate that sort of behavior. But the reality is, if you give players the option to do more damage, they're going to choose damage pretty much every time. So that being said, I would like to say about the tank change, as a healer enjoyer, I wouldn't say healer main, because I haven't really mained a healer since Dragonflight Season 1. But as a healing enjoyer, I really like the fact that tanks are going to be more reliant on healers. I would rather that tanks tank and do defensive moves. DPS. Like if you're a damage dealer, deal damage. Use your cooldowns wisely, kill whatever it is. And healers keep everyone alive. I like that style of gameplay. But the game has evolved over the years, and it's become more than its initial iteration of, hey, tanks can just stand there, and they've got, defensive rating, and they've got, plus armor or plus dodge on their gear, so this is good. We're beyond those days. That's where classic is right now. We're well beyond that. We can't go back to that. But what we can do is we can say, all right, instead of putting your gear as your primary defensive ability, why don't we make your attack moves be defensive in nature? And so they gave tanks a lot of defensives, but what ended up happening was players would use those defensive to basically make themselves unkillable because they have self-healing, and if you have defensives, you're just not going to take enough damage to die. Unless you run out of defensives, unless you poorly use your defensive. Oh, you popped your defensive too soon, so you had 3 seconds of defensive where there was no attacks. Stuff like that. Okay, fine. But regardless, tanks shouldn't be able to do that, at least not for a long period of time. And as a healer, I don't like having to watch the tank and go, oh, they already healed themselves. Okay. Oh, no, they don't need my help. They got it. Okay. I mean, I can't tell you the number of times I put Iron Bark on the tank only to see that they used their defensive a half second before I did mine. And I was like, well, what am I here for? This is pointless. Anyway, my point is, tanks are getting a little bit of a nerf, and Blizzard is kind of speaking in very generalities with this post, but the specifics of what they're trying to do for each tank is very specific to those classes. So druids are going to get a different set of nerfs than, say, a Blood DK or a Vengeance Demon Hunter versus a Prot Paladin versus a Prot Warrior, etc. Which I think is good, but ultimately, and Brewmaster Monks are in there too. Ultimately, though, I think what it boils down to is their philosophy rather than the specific changes, because we could go through all the specific changes and really what's the point? Their philosophy. Okay, so what they say is enemy damage. Tank durability can cause some other problems as well, especially in challenging endgame content that we want to work towards improving. Enemy damage has increased to challenge tanks, but if it's increased too much, it gets spiky and puts tanks in significant danger if their defenses ever drop. Right. This can lead to tanks getting killed rapidly, seemingly out of nowhere. We feel that this is unsatisfying and prefer tank damage to generally be evenly distributed, but still threatening over time. If tanks are not threatened enough, then the most challenging part of endgame content can become keeping DPS and healers alive, often against high burst damage, which sucks. As a healer, that sucks. Making tank survival a more involving element of group gameplay could give us some freedom to ease up on the threat to other group members. Okay, so this is the problem that I have with modern healing. Modern WoW healing is that as a DPS or the healer themselves, you are constantly put under threat. Whereas the tank can kind of manage themselves. So I've actually gone into groups where I actively ignore the tank and focus on keeping that Fury Warrior alive that just can't get out of the cleave, or keeping the mage alive who can't stay out of the fire. And obviously there's more to it than that. There's a lot of rot damage, there's a lot of burst damage, diseases and poisons and all sorts of nasty things that you have to deal with. But that ends up being the bulk of healing in Dragonflight, was keeping the other 4 members of the group alive while the tank takes care of themselves. Now, obviously, there are spots where you have to heal the tank. Yeah, you have to. Otherwise, the group's going to wipe. Or if you have an inexperienced tank. That's also something that I've run into, especially on a low key, like a +2. You go into a +2, and you realize really quickly, oh, this tank isn't very experienced. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know the route. They don't know how to use their defensives. I was in there with a Prot Warrior once who never once used shield block, They just spammed ignore pain. And I thought, well, that's one way to do it. So, there's a lot that goes into tanking and healing that I think can be very engaging and very rewarding. And like I said, the specifics of this don't matter because, I can tell you, prot warriors are going to get plus this and minus that, and guardian druids are going to get minus this and plus that. That really doesn't matter. The point is Blizzard is trying to adjust it so that tanks aren't all powerful gods and that healers actually have something to do without having to struggle through healing the DPS. All right, let's move on because I talked about that way longer than I intended to. All right, let's talk about Mythic Plus a little bit. So there's a couple of things with regards to the Mythic Plus affixes. We don't need to get into really big detail about this because, quite honestly, it's not that important in terms of what the final product is going to look like. We're not getting Mythic Plus until, what is it? Hold on. We're going to get Mythic Plus on September 17th. The War Within early access is August 22nd, so it's almost a month of no Mythic Plus. So they have plenty of time to change these things around 10 times. So it's fine. Okay. First off, Fortified Nerfed. So the damage bonus to mobs was nerfed from 30% to 20% for Fortified. And part of this is because some of the new affixes increase the damage that the mobs do. So I think this is an effort to kind of smooth that out a little bit, which I think is good. And Fortified is just nasty. So, okay. So there's two changes to affixes. One was a new affix, which is Xal'atath's Bargain Oblivion. While in combat, Xal'atath manifests crystals from the void that can be absorbed by enemies or players. These crystals spawn near enemies and move towards them until they are absorbed by players or collide with their target enemy. Players that absorb these void crystals gain increased mastery and leech. Okay, that's pretty cool. It's just a positioning affix. That's fine. And then Xal'atath's Bargain Voidbound. The Voidbound emissary now follows the tank player after being summoned. Void emissary's health is adjusted and no longer scales with Fortified. Dark Prayer now grants 5% damage to all enemies in combat every 2 seconds, adjusted from 10% damage to all enemies in combat every 3 seconds. So if you play this out, because a lot of people said, hey, it takes you more than 3 seconds to kill this thing or to destroy the shield. So what that means is that you're going to get 20% damage to all enemies every time this thing comes out, which is a lot. So what this change does is if you can kill it in within 4 seconds, you're going to get 10% damage buff to all enemies. They're just trying to smooth it out, make it so that it's a little bit easier for players to reduce the amount of damage. And even if you go the full 6 seconds, like you were before, to 20% damage, this would only give you 15. So this is a little bit of a nerf. The Dark Prayer now persists on enemy creatures if the channel finishes without the Void Emissary being defeated. Okay, and Blessing from Beyond now grants 20% cooldown reduction in addition to 20% critical strike chance. These are good changes. All right. The point that I was making earlier is that these Mythic Plus affix changes are going to get tuned 20 more times. And so it's great to know where they are right now, but it's not super important for the long term, at least not to discuss in July. Okay. We had an issue last week with the bullions. And as you may or may not have seen on Wowhead or Twitter or somewhere else, we will be getting bullions for every week until War Within drops. So I guess that last week, the week starting August 20th, we will still get a bullion that week. And Blizzard is having to be very careful because they don't want to make you feel like Dragonflight ends on the 22nd of August. Because the players who are going to get early access to the War Within, they are not starting the War Within early. So Blizzard is trying to make it very clear that Dragonflight is not ending until the 26th. So we will get a bullion that week as well. So if you want to spend that on some transmog or if you're just looking for one more piece, whatever. I did the math somewhere and I can't find the spreadsheet now, but I think it was something like 18 bullion total or something like that we'll get, plus the ones that you get from the dungeon bonus events. So that's not bad. That is not bad at all. All right. All right, so Blizzard did do this. Oh boy, let me try that again. Blizzard dropped a bunch of info on us about the schedule for the War Within and when we're going to be getting things. Now, there's a lot of information in here, and rather than just read it all to you, I will put a link to the blog post where they listed everything out. But the most important stuff is, 1, we're going to get normal dungeons with early access. So normal dungeons will be available in the War Within starting August 22nd. If you don't have early access, you'll get in normal dungeons on the 26th. That's fine. Also, on the 26th, we will get heroic dungeons. So you won't get them for early access, but you will get them for the release. The heroic dungeons will be item level nerfed. So they're going to be explorer level gear, which is the lowest gear that you can get for the upgrade system. So they're going to be explorer level gear. When season 1 starts on September 10th, they will move up to adventurer level gear. So yeah, it's a way to kind of get that, to control the way that the gear is coming in. So basically you won't be able to earn, there will not be a steady source of adventurer gear in the War Within until season 1 starts. I don't even think you'll be able to get veteran gear, honestly. They haven't been specific with things like delves and world events, but I would be surprised if any of that stuff dropped anything above adventurer. And even then, it might only drop explorer. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But they were being very specific. This is all dungeons and raids. So, all right. The other component to this is Mythic 0 dungeons will not launch until season 1 starts on September 10th. So no Mythic 0s. When they do, they will be daily. So you can do them once per day, and they will drop veteran level gear and reward champion gear in the vault. If you'll recall from Dragonflight Season 4, they dropped champion gear and rewarded hero gear in the vault. So it's a little bit of a change. I think they felt like Mythic Zeros were giving too high of gear, which I agree with. I think I would rather have Mythic Zeros be a good source of veteran gear all the time rather than a once-a-week source of champion gear. I didn't like that. So I think this is a good change. Okay, LFR is going to launch on the first week of Season 1. Wing 1 will launch with Season 1, week 1. Then for the second wing, it'll launch with the second week, and the third wing will launch with the third week. They're just going to do them 1, 2, 3, which I think is great. So if you're looking for LFR, by the third week, you'll be able to do all of it. And then the story raid will drop on the second week of the season. So that'll be September 17th. So I know there's a lot of weeks and dates and wings and numbers, and we don't know anything about world events. We don't know anything about delves. All we know is what they've told us about dungeons and raids. So make your own decisions on what that stuff will be. Hopefully we'll get a blog post about world content in the next couple of weeks, but my guess is they're probably still trying to iron all that out. So. All right, moving on. There's some deep topics there. I'm sorry. Okay, something light and cheery and certainly guaranteed to not have any problems. Wield otherworldly weapons with the Cosmic Weapon Cache. So the weapons that were available for the November. I believe it was November. Trading posts or Traveler's Log Journal will be available in the Blizzard store. I think it's like $20 or something. And they're pretty cool weapons. I mean, it's not anything special. I actually used a couple of them. I used the dagger on my mage, and I used the sword, the two-handed swords on my Fury Warrior. So that's pretty cool. But I already have them, so I don't need to buy them. But if you missed that if you missed that month in the trading post, the Traveler's Log. I keep saying trading post, but it was a Traveler's Log reward. You have a chance to buy them. And there's some pretty cool interactions with some NPCs in Silithus if you have them transmogged. So that's pretty cool too. But whatever. That's, it's one of those little things that ultimately doesn't really matter. All right. We're going to talk about Classic WoW just a little bit here. So last week I talked about the Classic era changes that they made where they basically broke... I'm using air quotes here. They broke Classic era. Druids could use polearms, and the guild interface was updated, and the Onyxia buff was resetting, and there was just chaos. It was chaos everywhere, people. So WoW players, being WoW players, they submitted a petition to Blizzard, and Blizzard listened and reverted the changes. So you know what? That's great. I'm happy for the people who were really upset by this change that they got it reverted. I personally think it's ridiculous, but I don't play Classic Era, so who am I to judge? Yeah. So anyway, and then the only other piece of news that I'm going to bring up, because I originally had intended to do this whole news bit on Tuesday, but it's Thursday, so some of this news is a little out of date. But anyway, the only other news for Classic that I want to bring up is the Rise of the Zandalari patch, which we mentioned last week or 2 weeks ago, that there was a Play with the Blues event for that on the PTR. It will go live July 30th, which is this Tuesday coming up. So we'll talk about this again on the next episode, but yeah. I wasn't sure if this is going to make it in July, but here it is, July 30th. Rise of the Zandalari, Cataclysm Classic Phase 2. So there you go. That's the WoW news. And like I said, there's a lot of news going on right now. And I could talk a lot more about this tank change, honestly. This is one of those things that I want to keep an eye on, the tank tuning in the War Within, because I feel like this is really crucial to making or breaking this expansion, because they've already talked about all the things they're doing, like with the tank and healer trinket nerfs. You can't use DPS trinkets anymore. And with the trying to adjust how healing works with the health pool increases and all of these things, it sounds like they're trying really hard to fix this problem, which was a problem that they created by making it so that tanks were indestructible. Honestly, that's what it boils down to. So hopefully we'll see something come out of this that really improves the overall situation in the War Within, because I honestly, at the beginning of Dragonflight, I loved Mythic Plus so much. I was having so much fun. And as the expansion went on and it got worse and worse and worse, I wasn't having fun anymore. So I'm really looking forward to getting that back. So, all right, let's move on to This Week in World of Warcraft.
Let's talk about World of Warcraft.
All right, this is the War Within preseason week 1. That sounds weird. Maybe I'll have to work on that. Regardless, if whether you want to call this Dragonflight Season 4 Week 14 or the War Within pre-patch Season Week 1, or who cares? It doesn't matter. The Mythic Plus and PvP seasons are over, so we're just kind of winging it at this point. The Affix rotation is going to remain the same, however. So we have Fortified, Afflicted, and Raging. Fortified, you know it, you love it, you hate to see it. Non-bosses have more health and deal 30% more damage. Okay. Afflicted, while in combat, afflicted souls periodically appear and seek the aid of players. They must be healed to full or dispelled before their cast afflicted cry goes off and reduce all players' haste by 100%. For 10 seconds, its effect stacks. I am so glad that we will not have to see this affix anymore after this week. So glad. And then Raging, non-boss enemies enrage at 30% health, becoming immune to crowd control other than interrupts. Yeah, and this one isn't so bad. This is actually not a terrible week. The trash is going to feel kind of sloggy, and higher level keys are going to be a pain, but, whatever, who cares? It is what it is. Oh, man. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the new Mythic Plus. The new Xalatath affixes look like a lot of fun. I'm really hoping that they stay that way. These affixes, I'm so done with them. And with the Fortified Nerf going into the War Within, down to 20% more damage, it's just, they're not getting rid of affixes, which I think would have been a mistake, but they're making them matter less. And the one that does matter is the 2 affix, and it's going to be fun, I hope, to deal with. So anyway, yeah. So if you're running Mythic Plus for the week, you just remember you're doing it for fun. Or if you're trying to get Keystone Hero or Keystone Master, you can still do that. But you're not getting anything else out of it. So, yeah, there you go. All right. The Awakened content for the week. Now, this is a little weird. So, on live servers right now, the only last hurrah you can choose is Zerlak Caverns and Time Rifts. However, all of the raids are Awakened. So, I don't know. I guess they wanted to funnel everyone into one last hurrah so that they weren't splitting everybody up, because then researchers is going to be a pain in the butt. But, yeah. So, last hurrah, Zerlak Caverns and Time Rifts. Protect the researchers under fire, loot a secured shipment from a sufficient camp, and complete a time rift. So, yeah, this one's actually not bad. What I like about this one is that you can finish the whole thing in about 35 minutes. If you start on the half hour, you do researchers under fire, you go over to suffusion camp, you do that, which really you just need to kill the Forge Master 3 times. And then you go over to the time rift. You don't even have to do the time rift, unless you're trying to get Sword Dormy rep. It's not necessary. You can just wait there until the portal opens up. You go into the portal, kill the boss, and you're done. About 35, maybe 40 minutes, depending on how long it takes to spawn the portal. So, yeah, this one's actually not bad. The only problem with this one is if people aren't doing researchers, then it's kind of a pain. But anyway. All right, so for raid, like I said, they're all awakened this week. So if you do LFR, if you do Mythic, they're all awakened at any level of the game. So, yeah. Basically pick what you want to run, or run all of them. That's up to you. As far as world bosses, I actually didn't look to see if the world bosses were awakened or not. So it's either Zakali Elders in Zerlak Cavern, or it's all of them. And which is going to be, it's not, it's Arstar the Hibernating, and the one that's in Waking Shore. I forget what his name is. That guy. Yeah. So, but regardless, I mean, what are you really getting out of it at this point? We're winding down. Dragonflight's over. We still have Dragonflight content. But there's really no more Dragonflight stuff to do. So, all right, the weekend, the weekly events and holidays. We only have 2 things on the schedule for this week, which is the bonus event and the PvP brawl. The bonus event is the Battleground bonus event, which is, you get a Sign of Battle buff, honor gains from Battleground objectives and wins increased by 50%. You can pick up the quest A Call to Battle from Khazra and Valdrakken to win 4 Battleground matches and get 5 marks of honor and 175 conquest. It's whatever. If you want to do battlegrounds, do battlegrounds. If you don't, it's fine. The marks of honor are cool because you can use them to buy transmog. But aside from that, it's whatever. And then Packed House, we've put more PvP in your PvP. It's basically a 15 versus 15 arena battle. I don't know. Like I said, this whole segment is just kind of. Because honestly, these weekly events, they're in the calendar. If you really want to see what's coming up, check the calendar, or look on Wowhead. But honestly, I don't feel compelled to go through this week after week and explain what's going on. See, here's the thing. We're going to have delves, and it's not like I can tell you, well, here's the latest thing that's going on with Brand Bronzebeard in the delve, or here's the world events. You can do all the world events. You can do all of them. You only get loot from 2 of them, so you just pick the 2 that you want to do, or 3. I think it's 2 or 3 of them. Anyway, regardless, like I said before, this is all going to change. The only thing that's going to be important is to know which Xal'atath's bargain it's going to be for the week, and honestly, I don't even think that matters all that much. Just go and do Mythic Plus. In the War Within, if you want to do Mythic Plus, you're going to do it. It's not like you're going to not do it because, I don't like Xal'atath's bargain Oblivion, but I do like Void whatever. It's like, if you want to do it, you're going to do it. So, I think as of now, we're going to retire the This Week in World of Warcraft segment, unless there's something really kind of special that I want to bring up, and in that case, I'll just bring it up in the news. So, enjoy the final This Week in World of Warcraft segment of Azeroth United. All right. We're going to just move straight on into the main discussion. So I have I went through a lot of different iterations of how I wanted to restructure the podcast, because I don't want to do the weekly rant anymore. And the Something New segment had oftentimes turned into more of a ranty type subject, and it really wasn't going the way that I wanted it to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a main discussion, and this is going to be kind of the main focus of the podcast. Yes, there might be a lot of news to get through, but if I'm going to have a guest interview segment, this is where it'll be. If we're going to have a topic for discussion, this is where it's going to end up. And this is primarily what I want the theme of the podcast to be focused on. So we're going to move on to this, and hopefully this works out. If it doesn't, I might, go back to the drawing board. But for now, we're going to try this for a couple of weeks and see how it sticks. So let's move on to the main discussion.
It's time for the main topic of the week.
So our main discussion for the week is Warbands. And yes, I know what you're saying. Hey, you already talked about Warbands. We know what's going on with Warbands. But I thought I knew what Warbands was going to be. I thought I understood everything there was to know about Warbands, and I knew what to expect. And I was like, all right, cool. But it's not about what the Warbands do. It's more about the philosophical change that Warbands represent. So if we do a flashback, let's go back and let's jump in our Wayback Machine and go to the early 2000s when World of Warcraft was being developed. At that time, we had several different MMORPG games. You had your EverQuest, you had your Ultima Online, you even had games like City of Heroes. And during that time, there was a different type of philosophy for how MMORPGs treated their players. If you died, you lost XP. In some cases, or in some games, you lost your loot. Your gear was in a pile on the ground next to your corpse, and you had to run back and get your loot before somebody else did, because somebody could just come and pick it up, and then you were SOL. Games were definitely more, I would say, hardcore, not in terms of what we think of nowadays as, oh my gosh, this is so hard, or you can't die, or anything like that. They were just less respectful of the player's time. They would just present you with something challenging and say, figure it out. And players did, or they didn't, and they didn't play it. And then came World of Warcraft. And what Blizzard did was they introduced a game that had a little bit more respect for its players' time. And that's kind of laughable now, especially when you go back and you play Classic and you think, man, this is the grindiest game that ever grinded in a game. And obviously, it feels like that to non-other MMO players, but MMOs were grindy. That's all you did. There might be some quests, but most of what you did was grinding. And even in WoW's earliest development, it was mostly grinding. It was just the fact that there were so many good quests that the testers were like, ooh, that was fun. I want to do more like that. And then they realized that was the way to create player engagement, was to have all of these quests scattered all over the world. Some that there were no breadcrumbs to. You just found them on your own. And so you would go do the quest and you're like, wow, that was so cool. And I leveled up too while I was doing it. This is amazing. Not go kill 50 rats in the forest and then come back and then go kill 50 more rats. No, it was trying to tell a story. And that was the thing. WoW was very story-centric, even if that story was kind of disjointed and discombobulated back in the vanilla days. So all this to say that the WoW philosophy overall was different than other MMOs at the time. But somewhere along the way, rather than continue to be different, the WoW developers decided this is now the holy grail of World of Warcraft. This is how World of Warcraft will work forever. In perpetuity, this is the way that World of Warcraft will work. And obviously that didn't stick because things changed over time. We got the Burning Crusade, we got Wrath of the Lich King. Everything in WoW was different. The talents were different, the combat was different, the even being able to do the random dungeon finder was something that they would never even have conceived of back in 2002 when they were building the game and when they were building these dungeons. So we slowly got these trickle of changes throughout the years. And you can see things that were more I'd say more warbandy across the years. You know, they introduced achievements in Wrath of the Lich King, and then I think it was Mists of Pandaria when the achievements became, or some of the achievements became account bound. It might have been Warlords or Draenor. Doesn't matter. At some point, they said, well, you know what? We can make it so that you can get credit for these achievements on multiple characters. And slowly but surely, these things leaked in. You had ways to purchase gear for your, purchase currency for your alt. So you could take a currency, you go to a vendor, you buy an equal number of that currency that's bind on account, put it in the mail, and send it to your alt. Your alt gets, now your alt has a currency that you have no need for because you've maxed out all the use for it, but your alt needs it. And so throughout the years, things have gotten more and more friendly for players and respectful of their players' time. And I think the Warbands was the last kind of component to that, because one of the things that the Warband does is it gives you the ability to say, hey, I want to work on this, but I don't want to have to work on it on this character. So I'll give you a really good example. I was going through on all of my characters, checking my reputation, my renown in the Dragon Isles. And I saw, okay, my druid, who is my season 1 main, he was renown 25 with the Dragonscale Expedition, and renown 25 with the Marug Centaur, and renown 30 with the Iskara Tuskar, and renown 29 with the Valdrakken Accord. And I was like, seriously? That's the one you skipped out on, dude? Now I have other characters who are 26, 27, but nobody was 30. And I thought, God, this sucks. Because I wanted everybody to be 30 when the change went into place on Tuesday. And I thought, it's fine, whatever. Well, I forgot all about it, to be perfectly honest. And so I'm running around on my Protection Warrior, who's level 65 at the time, killing some dragons in, or some proto-drakes in the Waking Shores, doing the world quest, the bonus event, whatever it is. Well, that bonus event, or that world quest, gave Valdrakken Accord rep. And as soon as I completed it, I got to renown 30 on Valdrakken Accord. And it felt good because it was like, you know what? I did work for this. I worked hard for this. I did a lot of dragon riding races that I didn't enjoy doing. And, you know, the fact that my level 65 Prot Warrior was the one who got, air quote, credit for the achievement doesn't matter because I did it. I'm the one that got renown 30 with Valdrakken Accord. Not Arathon the Protection Warrior or Nighthaven the Resto Druid. No, me. I got it. So I realized in that moment, I'm like, this is the whole point. It's not about the numbers of you got this or you scaled to that, or it's, are you getting your achievements in the game? Are you getting credit for the things that you do in World of Warcraft? Now, obviously, your reputation and your renown is only a small part of the Warbands. Just being able to go through an old raid and get loot and go, oh, look, I learned all of this stuff for my transmog. Being able to have it show me that my warband has already completed this quest. I don't need to do that. I don't need to go through and do a quest that I've done before, but I forgot because it was a year and a half ago. And then I get halfway through and I go, oh, I remember this quest. This quest sucks. This quest line sucks. I don't have to do it now because it shows me that my warband completed it, respecting my time. So I think Warbands is in a lot of ways, it's a framework for creating respect for the player's time. And they could have called it anything they wanted to. Warbands is just a catchy marketing type name. But really, Warbands is about saying whatever you do in game, you're doing it. You, the person, are doing it. You, the human being. Your characters are all going to get a benefit from it. Now, there are certain things that are character specific. Hey, I got Keystone Master on this character. Okay, well, that's specific to that character. Or I did this. I got the PvP title on this character. Okay, well, that's specific to that character. And that's fine. Because there are certain things that are very specific, and it's specific rewards, and it's you're doing a certain thing. It doesn't make any sense for your level 12 bank alt to suddenly be a Keystone Master. that doesn't make any sense. So I get that from that standpoint. But to say, I as an individual achieved all of these things, it really feels good, I think. And going back to my early example about World of Warcraft as an early MMORPG, they had these crazy ideas of what could and could not be done. It was something that the WoW developers have talked about, that when they were handed the game from the previous generation of WoW game runners, they said, this is the Holy Bible. You can't change these things. And they went, oh, okay, I got to stick to this. And then slowly realized over time, hey, wait a minute, why? This doesn't make any sense. We could change this and it would probably be more fun. And it turns out it was more fun. Think about a world in which your artifact power is shared. Wow. What about a world in which you can send Azerite gear to your alts? What? You know, there are a lot of things in the past in the history of WoW that have been rough, and things that players just kind of accepted because this is the game that we're all playing and this is how it works, and whether we like it or not, this is what we got to deal with. But the new profession system is a perfect example of this. If I have a character who I just really don't do a lot of quests on, my discipline priest, for example, my discipline priest for years was my tailor and my enchanter. And I played him a lot. He was my main in early Wrath of the Lich King. I've played that character a lot for many years. And over time, I've become less and less attached to him. Not to the point of getting rid of him, of course. He's always going to be there. First of all, his name is Healbot. What a great healer name, right? But second of all, that character is special and it means a lot to me, and I feel like I know him as a character, right? Even though he's just a creation on a computer screen. So I don't want to get rid of him. I'm attached to him. But I don't want to play him. Playing a disciplined priest in open world content is not fun. Doing quests, doing dailies as a disciplined priest stinks. And I didn't really like playing Shadow. I especially didn't want to play him Shadow. It was like, if I'm going to play a Shadow Priest, I'm going to create a new Shadow Priest who has a different personality. So anyway, when I was leveling up my professions, I realized the problem with this. And the problem is that he has no renown with anyone. I was like renown 7 or whatever. And so I had this struggle where it was like, well, I want these tailoring and enchanting recipes, but I can't get them because my character has no renown. And not only that, but my character needs to go and do all this content so I can get these drops. And so I had a choice. I said, well, I can tough it up and grind this character through that and just grin and bear it. Or I can take one of my existing characters who's got mining and herbalism as their trade skills and relearn tailoring and enchanting on that character, which is ultimately what I did. I had a mage and I thought, well, you know what? You're now a tailor and an enchanter. He was already high renown with a lot of, or high reputation with a lot of the different renowns. So that worked out. But I didn't like that I had to do that. It didn't feel good. Now, some people, especially older MMO players, might go, well, if you didn't earn the reputation on your priest, you shouldn't get that. Blah, blah. Okay, and I get that. And that is a very old school way of thinking and of kind of accepting what your limitations are or what you're allowed to do. The people who gatekeep your fun. The whole joke, fun detected, right? The people who gatekeep your fun because, well, you're not allowed to have fun because I didn't do it that way, so you shouldn't get to do it that way. It's like, why? Why shouldn't we be able to just do the things that are fun for fun's sake? So that's what I did. I struggled with it, and now my mage is one of my main characters, and I play him a lot, and he's got tailoring and enchanting. And my poor priest Healbot, he's going to just sit there on the bench. He might not even get to level 80 for a while. And that's just how it goes. So I feel like Warbands really, when you really break it down and you think about all the different things that they've given us over the years, Warbands is like all of that in one package. It said, hey, here's a way that you can transfer currency and get credit for each other's actions and get credit for each other's achievements and be able to share gear and be able to share reagents and all of these things. Now, I haven't been able to test out the Warbank because it hasn't been working for the past couple days, but still, the point is, it's there. That feature is built in. They're not going to suddenly take it away and go, you know what? We changed our mind, so we aren't going to do Warbank after all. No, it's going to be there. They just have to figure out the technical details of having that shared across hundreds of realms. So what I really am driving at with the Warbands is that while there are components of the Warband that you can look at and say, this is what a Warband is, I would argue that a Warband is greater than the sum of its parts because it is this philosophical change in the design. It's no longer that old school mentality of, well, if you didn't earn it on your priest, you shouldn't have that recipe. I'm going to have that recipe. I might have it on my priest and my mage now. I might not have characters that have the renown, but they have the rewards from the renown or whatever it is. Because honestly, I'm out there doing it. I'm getting the reputation. I'm grinding and I'm earning it. Why should I be forced to do it on a character that I don't want to play just so that I can get a specific recipe? Or be forced to change the trait skills of another character? That doesn't make any sense to me. As a modern WoW player, I feel like that's counterintuitive. And quite honestly, it's just not very fun. So, all right. Now, before I go and end this discussion on Warbands, I wanted to bring up one other thing, which is I've mentioned before multiple times that I have 2 Battle.net accounts. And these Battle.net accounts are not linked to each other or anything like that. They're completely separate. Years ago, when I had 2 WoW accounts, and when Blizzard announced that they were going to be converting WoW accounts into Battle.net accounts, I didn't understand because I was dumb. I didn't understand that I could convert both of those WoW accounts into one Battle.net account. So I created 2 separate Battle.net accounts for them. And over the years, I just maintained 2 Battle.net accounts. And at one point, I went to Blizzard and I said, hey, can I combine these 2 into one Battle.net account? And they said, no, you cannot. That's not something we do. And so I'm stuck with 2 Battle.net accounts, each fully fleshed out with characters in various states of gearing and renowns and all sort of achievements and all sorts of things. And this is the one area that and this is a personal thing, I don't like about Warbands, because I still have to do everything twice. So I still have to get to max renown on all the different reputations. I still have to get all of my achievements twice. If I get a mount drop, I'm like, that's cool that I got that mount for this account, but I didn't get it for the other account. So it kind of sucks from that standpoint, but I've gotten used to it over the years. It feels bad to see all these people posting all their cool screenshots of their Warband login screen and, all my favorite characters. And I'm like, my favorite characters are split between 2 different accounts. So I can't even I don't get that cool, yay, me too feature. It's that's great for you guys. I'm over here. I'm happy with my Warband login screen. So and this is probably one of the reasons why I'm such a big Aldaholic, because I have to do everything so many times. But it does kind of stink a little bit. And I do feel a little bit of, I decided years ago, because I had an opportunity where I could have said, all right, I'm going to drop my second Battle.net account and just create a second WoW account on my other Battle.net account and just level up new characters on that account. And I could just go from there. I could have done that years ago, but I didn't. And I really wish that I had. I really do wish that I had done that, because now I would be enjoying the same thing as everyone else. But such is life. And you know what? Who am I to complain that I'm paying for WoW, 2 WoW accounts, when there are people out there who can't even afford to pay for one? They've got to struggle to farm gold in game so that they can buy a WoW token so they can afford their subscription for the month. So you know what? Maybe I shouldn't be complaining. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I'm just I had to get that out there. But let me go back. Warbands are great. they are probably, Warbands is probably one of the greatest features that has ever been added to World of Warcraft. By far. I would say I can't think of anything that I would put above Warbands as this is, maybe achievements could be one that you could say achievements is a better feature. I don't know. Maybe raid difficulty, putting heroic raid in there. You could throw that in there. I mean, there's been a couple of good ones. Both of those came from Wrath of the Lich King, by the way. But I don't know. I think Warbands is probably one of the biggest. I would definitely put Warbands as top 5 WoW features of all time. And maybe I'll do a WoW features list from every expansion past at some point. But regardless, I'm really happy with Warbands. I'm really happy with the philosophical shift from Blizzard that has made Warbands possible. And I'm really excited about the War Within. I can't wait to get in there and to go through those quests. You know, I did about level 75 on the beta in the leveling, and before I stopped and went, you know what, I'm going to do this for real because I'm not enjoying the leveling. I'm not enjoying the story. I'm just kind of doing the leveling just to do it. And I thought, well, you know what? I'm going to do it for real, and I'll enjoy it. So, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to the War Within. I'm really excited about Warbands. I haven't found a guild that I want to join for Cross Realm. I am looking for a guild right now, but not actively. It's just kind of a thing, and you know, I'll get around to that. Probably before the expansion comes out. But yeah. So, all right. That's going to wrap it up for our show today. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. It's been quite the journey for me to have this podcast. I mean, we're episode 45. We're going to hit episode 50 the week that the War Within launches, which is pretty cool. That'll be kind of a milestone episode for me. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I haven't figured that out. But I'll probably try to do a Monday live stream episode, maybe, or something along those lines. I don't know. I'll come up with something fun and try and do that. Or maybe not. Maybe I'll just do the regular episode. This week's Mythic Plus affixes are blah, blah, blah. But anyway, you know, that's a problem for future Denethor. So, all right. Again, thank you so much for listening. It's always a pleasure and a privilege to get on this microphone and speak to you. If you want to get a hold of me directly, you can reach out to me on Twitter. I am @Denethor. Or you can email me. I am denethor1@gmail.com. If you want to email the podcast, if you have any questions about that, or if you want to get in contact with me or get in contact with the podcast, you can send an email to azerothunitedpod@gmail.com. All right. Remember to be good to each other out there. That is a real person on the other side of that keyboard. And maybe they're struggling with their Warband login screen. Or maybe they have 2 Battle.net accounts because they were a dummy when they were in their 20s. Remember to be nice, smile, and have fun. All right. Take care. I love you all. And I'll see you in Azeroth.